Hey guys, what's up? Waving hand. Today I've got a brand new story for you. The name of the story is The Perfectly Boring History. It's not about adventures, not about battles, not about heroes. It's a boring history of sacks of wheat counted every year, coins stored in a wooden chest, dusty and muddy roads, and a door that never changed its brown color. So, let's begin the most boring history ever told. In the year 1247, a clerk opened a ledger. He did not open it quickly. He did not open it slowly. He opened it in an ordinary way. He wrote, with a quill that was neither sharp nor dull, that the town harvested 317 sacks of wheat. The sacks were brown. The ropes were plain. The floor of the barn was dirt. He wrote these facts as if no other facts existed. In 1248, he wrote that the town harvested 318 sacks of wheat, which was one more than the year before. He did not write why. He wrote only that it was so. The sacks were arranged in rows, then in more rows, then in rows that looked like the earlier rows. The barn remained wooden. The rope remained rope. The dust remained dust. In 1249, the number returned to 317 sacks. He wrote that it returned. He did not add surprise, because there was none. He noted the barn door. It swung. It closed. It latched. It did all of these things in the usual way, and that was considered sufficient for the page. The market had 42 stalls. Stall 1 sold salt. Stall 2 sold grain. Stall 3 sold wool. Stall 4 also wool. Stall 5 sold fish. Stall 6 grain again. Stall 7 leather. Stall 8 wool again. The arrangement was not different. The writing was not different. The days were not different. He copied the stall list each year because the list existed, not because it changed. The church bell weighed 246 kilograms. He wrote this weight with care, then wrote it again, as if the repetition itself were weight. On feast days, the bell rang 7 times. People heard it, then did not think about it. The clerk heard it, then wrote that he heard it. By 1250, a council met to discuss what had not changed. They discussed the bell and decided it should ring 8 times instead of 7. This was written word for word. The bell rang 8 times, and after the 8th ring, the town continued in the way it had always continued. The page ended, and another page began. The road to the east was straight. Its stones were uneven. The clerk had a sentence for summer, dust, and a sentence for autumn, mud, and a sentence for winter, mud, and a sentence for spring, damp. He used these sentences every year, placing them like stones on a path that did not turn. The population was counted, 2,423. The number was copied into a column that had no ornament. In 1251, the number was 2,424. The clerk did not say who came or who went. He wrote the number as a number and stopped there. In 1252, the number returned to 2,423, and the book accepted this with the same calm ink it used for everything else. He listed the sacks again. 318 in one year, 319 the next, 318 again thereafter. He wrote as if the numbers were weather, the way weather once was. Ordinary, cyclical, accepted. He wrote that the sacks were stacked. He wrote that the stacks were counted. He wrote that the count was accepted. He wrote the acceptance as if it too could be measured. A stall roof tore in a storm. Repaired, the clerk wrote. The following year the same roof tore again. Repaired again, he wrote. The third year it tore once more, and he wrote, repaired again. The phrase settled into the record like a familiar guest who neither speaks nor leaves. By 1260, the bell still weighed 246 kilograms. The bell rang 8 times. The clerk wrote that the bell rang 8 times. The townspeople, having already heard it, did not require the page, but the page required itself, and so the sentence appeared. The market grew to 45 stalls by 1270. The new stalls sold wool, which was similar to wool. The list became longer without becoming different. The clerk wrote numbers beside numbers, items beside items, and returned the quill to the ink in the ordinary way. He described the main road again. Summer, dust. Autumn, mud. Winter, mud. Spring, damp. He moved the order of the sentences once, then put them back, deciding that the earlier order was acceptable because it was earlier. Names were written in thin lines, births in a list, deaths in another list. The lists faced each other on a spread of pages so similar that one could read them without reading them. The names belonged to people, but in the ledger they belonged to columns. He measured a bench outside the council hall, long enough to sit, narrow enough to be narrow, brown enough to be brown. He wrote that it was there. He wrote that it remained there. The next year, he wrote that it still remained there and did not remove the earlier sentence, because earlier sentences also remained. He returned to wheat. A table showed 317, then 318, then 317, then 319, then 318 again. He added a note in a margin about the ropes on the sacks. The ropes were tied, and he wrote that they were tied, and the note became a note that could be copied later when there was room to copy it. He inspected the chest where market fees were stored. It was wooden. The lock was iron. The hinges creaked. The coins made a dull sound. He wrote these 4 items on one line, then rewrote them on the line below in the same order to ensure the first line was not alone. The next year, he wrote the same 4 items but changed nothing else. He checked the door of the council hall. It was brown. He wrote that it was brown. He returned a year later and confirmed that it remained brown. He wrote that it remained brown. He returned the following year and confirmed that it was still brown. He wrote that it was still brown. The ink proved what the door already knew. He walked the east road counting paces, 413 or 414, depending on the length of a step in a day that had other steps. He wrote both numbers because both had occurred. The next year, he wrote 413 again, as if the road had chosen. He listed the pigeons near the bell tower in a margin note that did not require itself, but nonetheless appeared. Some. The number some could be used repeatedly without disagreement. He wrote some the next year and found that it fit as well as any more precise word. He closed the year with a sentence he reused often. Nothing unusual occurred, and what occurred was recorded. The sentence joined the others, becoming a sentence that could be placed wherever a sentence was needed. In 1275, the clerk became older in a way that did not require writing. He continued the practice that required writing. 318 sacks again. 8 rings again. Dust, mud, damp mud again. Brown door again. Some pigeons again. He wrote these again until the word again felt like a thing that could be stacked in a barn. The ledger's pages thickened. The boxes that held the pages filled. Dust settled on the boxes. At the end of a decade, he wrote a summary that was not a summary. As before, he underlined it once, lightly, because even underlining could be considered an event. He wrote the population, 2,431. He wrote it again in a place where it did not need to be, then drew a line through the second writing, so the first would be first. The town remained a town. The sacks remained sacks. The bell remained a bell. The road remained a road. The book remained a book that could be heavier than the things it described. The year ended with the same phrase. Nothing unusual occurred, and what occurred was recorded. The phrase fit the margin with a comfort that long practice provides. The clerk placed the quill down, then picked it up, not because beginning and ending were different, but because both were part of the act of continuing. In the year 1280, the clerk turned his attention to the coins. The coins were many, but not too many. They were enough to be counted. They were not unusual. They were not remarkable. They were simply coins. He wrote, "The chest is wooden. The lock is iron. The hinges creak. The coins make a dull sound." This line became the line of many years. In 1281 he wrote, "The chest is wooden. The lock is iron. The hinges creak. The coins make a dull sound." In 1282, the same words. In 1283, again the same. By 1284, the same words filled yet another page. The numbers of coins shifted slightly. 1,243 in one year. 1,244 the next. 1,245 the year after. Then 1,243 again. The difference of one coin was written as carefully as the difference between kingdoms elsewhere. But in this town, it was only one coin. He described them. One coin round. One coin less round. One coin shiny. One coin dull. One coin with faded stamp. One coin with clear stamp. By 1290, these same lists had filled dozens of pages. Yet they continued, because continuation itself was the duty. The clerk noted the chest again. "The chest is wooden. The lock is iron. The hinges creak. The coins make a dull sound." This line was repeated in 1291, in 1292, and in 1293. By 1295, the phrase had become more familiar than the coins themselves. Anyone who opened the book would find it before they found the coins. Anyone who read it would know it without needing to see. The wheat was still counted. The stalls were still listed. The bell was still weighed. But the chest of coins became its own chapter of monotony. In 1296 he wrote, "The coins are stored. They are counted. They're stored again. In 1297, he copied the same. In 1298, again. By 1300, the chest had been opened and closed so many times that the record of opening and closing became more than the coins themselves. Yet still he wrote, "The chest is wooden, the lock is iron, the hinges creak, the coins make a dull sound." The council asked for a report in 1301. The report said only what the book already said. There are coins. They are in the chest. The chest is wooden. The lock is iron. The hinges creak. The coins make a dull sound. The council accepted this report because it matched what had been reported before. By 1305, the chest had aged. The wood darkened. The iron rusted. The hinges creaked more loudly. The coins made the same dull sound. The record wrote all of this, then repeated it the next year, and the next, and the next. By 1310, more than 100 pages had been filled with the same description: wooden chest, iron lock, creaking hinges, dull sound. The phrase itself had become history. The clerk's handwriting did not change, because change would have been unusual, and unusual things did not belong here. In 1315 he wrote once more, "The chest is wooden, the lock is iron, the hinges creak, the coins make a dull sound." In 1316 the same. In 1317 the same. In 1318 the same. In 1319 the same. The book grew thicker. The chest grew older. The coins remained coins. By 1320, the history of coins was already longer than the history of kings. But it was still written, because what was written was what was. By the year 1321, the entry began exactly as before. "The chest is wooden. The lock is iron. The hinges creak. The coins make a dull sound." The clerk paused, dipped the quill in ink, and wrote the line again, word for word, just beneath it. He explained nothing. He did not need to. The repetition itself was the explanation. In 1322, the line was copied once more. The coins that year totaled 1,244. They were counted carefully, one by one, as if a single coin might vanish if not watched. But no coin vanished. Still, the counting occurred, and the words followed the counting. In 1323, the total was 1,243. The clerk noted that this was one fewer than before. He did not write why. He did not ask why. He wrote only, "The coins are stored. They are counted. They are stored again." In 1324, the total returned to 1,244. The clerk wrote, "The chest is wooden. The lock is iron. The hinges creak. The coins make a dull sound." The sound did not change. The words did not change. The year did not change, except in number. By 1325, the phrase had already been repeated more than 40 times. Yet the ink did not refuse it. The paper did not reject it. The phrase settled onto the page the way dust settled onto shelves, constantly, invisibly, inevitably. The chest itself was inspected once every season. In spring it was wooden. In summer it was wooden. In autumn it was wooden. In winter, it was still wooden. The clerk wrote these confirmations each season, and so 4 times a year the same line appeared. The chest is wooden. The lock was iron. It was iron in spring. It was iron in summer. It was iron in autumn. It was iron in winter. The lock is iron, he wrote, each season, each year, for decades. The hinges creaked. They creaked when opened. They creaked when closed. They creaked in spring. They creaked in summer. They creaked in autumn. They creaked in winter. The hinges creak, the clerk wrote. The coins made a dull sound. They made it when lifted. They made it when dropped. They made it when counted. They made it when stored. The coins make a dull sound, he wrote, as if the sound itself were an entry that demanded a ledger. By 1330, these 4 lines had been written so many times that they were no longer words but grooves in the parchment. Yet the clerk did not stop. In 1331, he described one coin in detail. This coin is round. Its stamp is faded. Its edge is worn. It makes a dull sound. In 1332, he described another. This coin is also round. Its stamp is clear. Its edge is sharp. It makes a dull sound. In 1333, he returned to the first description and copied it again. In 1334, he copied the second description again. In 1335, he copied both, one after the other. By 1340, the book of coins contained hundreds of such entries. The pages smelled of ink, dust, and age. The words smelled of repetition. The council received a summary. The coins exist. They are the same as before. The summary was accepted without question. By 1350, a new clerk inherited the chest. His name was Ulrich the Younger. He read the old entries. He dipped his quill. He began as his father's father had begun. The chest is wooden. The lock is iron. The hinges creak. The coins make a dull sound. In 1351, the same. In 1352, the same. In 1353, the same. Ulrich the Younger believed that the writing of sameness was his only true duty, and so the sameness was written, year after year, decade after decade. By 1360, the chest was still wooden. The lock was still iron. The hinges still creaked. The coins still made a dull sound. The words still appeared, as if they had been waiting for him. By the year 1361, Ulrich the Younger moved from coins to roads. The chest was still wooden, the lock still iron, the hinges still creaked, and the coins still made a dull sound. But the roads require their own pages, so he opened a fresh section of the ledger. He began as clerks always began. The road is straight. The stones are uneven. In summer, the road is dusty. In autumn, the road is muddy. In winter, the road is muddy. In spring, the road is damp. In 1362, he copied the same lines, word for word. In 1363 again. In 1364 again. By 1365 he added, "The ditch on the side holds water in spring, dries in summer, fills with mud in autumn, freezes in winter." In 1366 the same line was copied again. In 1367 again. In 1368, again. The dust was described in detail. The dust rises when carts pass. The dust settles when carts stop. The dust gathers on shoes. The dust gathers on clothes. The dust gathers on stalls. The dust gathers everywhere. These lines filled one page in 1369, then another page in 1370, though the dust itself did not change. The mud was described with equal patience. The mud is thick. The mud is heavy. The mud sticks to wheels. The mud sticks to boots. The mud sticks to hooves. The mud slows carts. The mud slows men. The mud slows animals. In 1371, the same words were written again. In 1372, the same again. The damp was given its own paragraph. The damp makes the stones dark. The damp makes the road soft. The damp lingers for weeks. The damp is not rain. The damp is not dry. The damp is between. By 1373, this description was copied word for word. In 1374 again. In 1375 again. The years marched on. The sentences marched with them. 1376, 1377, 1378, 1379, 1380, each year. Dust, mud, damp, stones, ditches, carts, boots, hoofs, men, animals. By 1385, the book had more pages about roads than about people. The clerk wrote that the road was as before. He wrote that nothing unusual occurred. He wrote that what occurred was recorded. And so, page after page, the road remained as it was. Straight, uneven, dusty, muddy, damp. By 1411, the clerk began with the familiar line once more. The road is straight. The stones are uneven. In summer, the road is dusty. In autumn, the road is muddy. In winter, the road is muddy. In spring, the road is damp. He wrote this at the beginning of every entry, year after year. The line became less an observation than a ritual. In 1412, the same. In 1413, the same. In 1414, unchanged. By 1415, he expanded the section on dust. The dust is gray. The dust is soft. The dust blows into eyes. The dust blows into mouths. The dust clings to hair. The dust clings to clothes. The dust is everywhere. He wrote this line again in 1416, again in 1417, again in 1418. The mud received equal treatment in 1419. The mud is deep. The mud is slow. The mud clings to carts. The mud clings to boots. The mud clings to hooves. The mud drags time down. The words were copied in 1420, in 1421, in 1422. By 1425, the clerk began writing about damp more often. The damp lies on stones. The damp lies on wood. The damp lies on doors. The damp lies on stalls. The damp lies on all surfaces. The damp lingers. In 1426, the same. In 1427, the same. In 1428, the same. By 1430, the pages of the ledger contained entire sections that were nearly identical year after year. The council asked in 1431 if the road had changed. The clerk wrote, "The road has not changed. Dust, mud, damp, stones, straight." The council accepted this answer as sufficient. By 1435, he noted that the dust had been counted, though dust could not be counted. He still wrote, "Dust, too much." In 1436, the same. In 1437, the same. In 1438, the same. By 1440, more than 100 pages had been filled with nothing but variations on dust, mud, and damp. The monotony was no longer a detail, it was the record itself. By 1441, the road entries had become so predictable that anyone opening the ledger already knew what was written. Still, the clerk dipped his quill and repeated the line. "The road is straight. The stones are uneven. In summer, the road is dusty. In autumn, the road is muddy. In winter, the road is muddy. In spring, the road is damp." In 1442, the same. In 1443 again. In 1444 again. By 1445, he added one extra detail. "The ditch fills with water in spring. The ditch dries in summer. The ditch fills with mud in autumn. The ditch freezes in winter." This pattern too was repeated every year afterward, unchanged. In 1450, the dust section was copied once more. "The dust is pale. The dust is thin. The dust rises when carts pass. The dust settles when carts stop. The dust covers stalls, doors, and roofs. The dust is endless." In 1451, the same. In 1452, the same. In 1453, the same. By 1455, he wrote of mud again. "The mud is heavy. The mud is brown. The mud sticks to boots, wheels, and hooves. The mud slows men, animals, and carts. The mud slows everything." In 1456, the words were repeated. In 1457, the words were repeated again. By 1460, nearly half the ledger was filled with dust, mud, and damp, arranged in cycles as repetitive as the seasons themselves. In 1465, the damp section was written once more. "The damp darkens stones. The damp softens earth. The damp lingers after rain. The damp does not vanish. The damp is not wet, not dry. The damp is between." This sentence was copied again in 1466, 1467, and 1468. By 1470, a new clerk arrived. His name was Conrad the Elder. He looked at the old records. He saw centuries of repetition, and he began his first entry with the same words as always. "The road is straight. The stones are uneven. Summer, dust. Autumn, mud. Winter, mud. Spring, damp." From 1471 to 1480, the words remained identical. By 1490, Conrad's ledger alone held hundreds of pages about a single road that never changed. The final line of every entry was the same. By the year 1491, the clerks had already written of wheat, coins, bells, roads, dust, mud, and damp. But the people themselves also required recording. Not their stories, not their adventures, not their hopes, only their names. And so a new section began, the register of births and deaths. In 1491, the clerk wrote, "Born, Hans, son of Otto. Born, Peter, son of Wilhelm. Born, Anna, daughter of Heinrich. Died, Martin, son of Conrad. Died, Elizabeth, daughter of Jacob." Nothing else was written. No causes, no circumstances, only names in a line. In 1492 he wrote, "Born, Heinrich, son of Hans. Born, Katerina, daughter of Peter. Died, Ulrich, son of Andreas. Died, Maria, daughter of Wilhelm." In 1493, the same pattern repeated. Names written, nothing more. By 1495, the list filled entire pages. Born Karl. Born Anna. Born Jacob. Died Otto. Died Greta. Died Heinrich. The names were plain. The names were repeated. Some names appeared again and again, as if the town had only a handful of words from which to choose. By 1500, there were hundreds of lines. The births were balanced by the deaths. The number of people in the town did not change much. Always 2,430, 2,431, 2,432. The clerk copied these totals without question. In 1501, the record says, "Born Wilhelm. Born Elizabeth. Born Conrad. Died Peter. Died Anna. Died Karl." The names filled the page, yet the meaning never grew. By 1505, the pattern was so strong that the clerk sometimes wrote the words without the names. Born 1, died 1. The next year, born 2, died 2. By 1510, entire pages consisted only of such pairs. The book of life became the book of balance. Still, at the end of each page, the clerk wrote the same closing line. By 1511, the clerk began the year's entry with the same formula. Born 1, died 1. In 1512 he wrote, "Born 2, died 2." In 1513 again, "Born 1, died 1." The book filled with this balance, year after year, line after line. By 1515, the clerk decided to write names again, though they were the same names as before. Born Jacob. Born Anna. Died Peter. Died Maria. In 1516, he copied the same names, though they did not belong to the same people. The names belonged only to the page. Born Hans. Born Elizabeth. Died Karl. Died Greta. In 1517, he returned to numbers. Born 3. Died 3. By 1520, the book had hundreds of lines of names and numbers. The totals were always the same. The town remained 2,430, 2,431, 2,432. The balance never changed more than by 1 or 2. The clerk wrote, "In this year 3 were born. In this year 3 died. The population is as before. He wrote the same line again in 1521, again in 1522, again in 1523. By 1525, he began to recycle names openly. Born Hans, died Hans. Born Anna, died Anna. The balance was complete, the symmetry recorded. By 1530, the book of names had become a chant. Born 1, died 1. Born 2, died 2. Born 3, died 3. The words repeated like footsteps. In 1535 he wrote only this: births occurred, deaths occurred. The numbers were the same. He copied that line every year until 1540. By then, dozens of pages carried only those 9 words. Births occurred, deaths occurred. The numbers were the same. And yet the writing did not stop. The book did not close. The clerk dipped his quill again, year after year, as though sameness itself needed its proof. By 1541, the entries had become shorter than ever. Born 1, died 1. The same sentence appeared in 1542, and again in 1543, and again in 1544. By 1545, the clerk grew tired of inventing names. He simply recycled them as if they were coins used too many times. Born Jacob, died Jacob. Born Anna, died Anna. Born Peter, died Peter. He wrote these pairs for years, not because they were true, but because the page needed filling. By 1550, the town records contained more Jacobs and Annas than the town itself could ever hold. Yet the clerk did not question it. He only wrote. In 1551, the entry was reduced again. Born 2, died 2. In 1552, the same. In 1553, the same. In 1554, the same. By 1555, he summarized in one line: births balance deaths. He wrote it again in 1556, and again in 1557, and again in 1558. By 1560, the pages carried only this phrase, copied hundreds of times: births balance deaths. Still, at the end of each entry, he added, the population is as before. By 1565, the monotony had deepened. The register contained nearly 200 pages of nothing but names repeated, numbers repeated, and phrases repeated. The council once asked in 1566, "How many are in the town?" The clerk answered with the same number as before, 2,431. In 1567 he wrote, 2,430. In 1568 he wrote, 2,432. The tiny changes were noted with the same gravity as wars elsewhere. But in this town it was only 1 or 2. By 1570 he ended his record with the same line every year.